to stay lean after a diet phase? I think this is the all-important question because I think losing weight is easy. Millions of people lose 20 plus pounds every year. You listening to this have likely lost a good amount of weight at some point in time. You can remember yourself going through a fat loss journey, losing the weight. That's not the hard part. The hard part is staying lean after the diet, knowing how to eat after the diet, knowing how to act, essentially being in the right headspace after a diet. That's really what separates someone that's going to be forever lean versus someone that's constantly on a cycle of weight loss, weight gain, weight loss, weight gain. You've probably been there. You probably lost the weight and then gained it all back. It happens so often. It's a study that I've cited probably a dozen times throughout the history of this podcast. 85% of Americans that lose 20 or more pounds gain it all back and more in the span of a year. Knowing how to stay lean becomes really important. Ideally, you went through a sustainable diet phase that is going to be pretty similar to how you're eating after the diet phase to help you stay lean afterwards and not have to change too much between diet and post-diet living. If not, I would say this is usually the best time to get a coach for most people. Because again, this is something that you've probably done on your own. You've probably lost the weight on your own, but you've never learned to maintain the weight on your own. And it's not something you can always learn on your own either. It's very hard to maintain that consistently while maintaining a healthy relationship with food, while not worrying about food, while not being stressed at social outings and things like that. Because you've been in a diet mindset for so long, that's not the mindset that you're gonna be in the rest of your life. The diet mindset is a temporary mindset. If you wanna stay lean after a diet phase, you need to learn how to have a maintenance mindset, which is very different, but it is more sustainable and it is a lot more long-term. I highly recommend getting a coach for those kind of situations. But some general tips that I think can help you stay lean, but also help you get lean during a diet phase. These translate really well during and after a diet. Is one, maximizing satiety per meal. Eating meals that help you stay full longer, opting for foods that have a high food volume and low calorie density. Protein, fiber, and fat-filled foods tend to be a little more filling. Processed foods and things like, you can have a 300 calorie candy bar that's as big as the palm of your hand, or you can have a 300 calorie salad that takes up a giant bowl on your table. One of them is gonna keep you full longer than the other, and it's gonna save you a lot of calories. Not to say that you shouldn't have the candy bar, but understanding when you can have it and how you can use one to your advantage versus the other is really important distinction to make, and that's something a coach will be able to help you with. Building meals around protein becomes really important as well post-diet phase, and the reason for that is because one, again, for satiety, protein is going to help you stay full longer, but two, this is usually the first thing that people let go of after a diet, but you're going to need it to maintain the muscle tissue that you've built and maintained during a diet phase and before that. If you've done a building phase before that, you want to maintain the muscle mass that you had because that's what's going to keep you looking good. Starting with a protein source and then afterwards adding a carb, adding a fruit, adding a veggie, adding a fat to your meal. The next thing is keeping meals pretty simple and limiting multi-macro foods. Multi-macro foods being things like a candy bar that has a lot of fat, has a lot of carb, has a lot of protein. If it has a lot of all of those things, it just has a lot of calories in general. So opting for simple foods. If you haven't already, you can listen to the How to Actually Flexible Diet episode. I think it was like 5 or 6 episodes ago that breaks down how you can eat the foods you want while losing weight. And likewise, how to eat the foods you want while maintaining weight. It's gonna be a balance of things. You wanna make a majority of your meals be simple. You wanna make a majority of your meals come from whole nutrient-dense foods that are simple ingredients. Something that has a face on it, cows, beef, chicken, fish, things like that. It's something that's come from the ground, fruits, vegetables, grains, also things like that. So limiting how much multi-macro foods you have and opting for more simple foods is gonna be the key there. Getting your calories from solid foods versus liquid. Solid foods are gonna keep you full longer. Drinking your calories is not going to keep you full very long, if at all. Most of the time, drinking your calories, you're not going to find it as enjoyable as you would eating your calories. And any drink that has calories, you can likely find a 0 or low calorie alternative for it, short of smoothies and things like that. But again, eating your fruit is going to help you be fuller and get the same nutrients as opposed to drinking them. Last thing is, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the flexible dieting thing that I said earlier, it's understanding how much you need to enjoy yourself without overdoing it. Because I think we've all been in a situation where we've eaten too much of a good food, had too much of a good thing, and we've always regretted it earlier. No one ever feels good after a binge. No one ever feels good after overindulging. You feel tired, you feel gross, you feel sweaty. In some cases, you don't want to experience that too often, but you still want to enjoy the food. You don't need more of that food to enjoy it more. You can enjoy enough of that food and enjoy it equally as much, probably more, because you're not feeling bad about it afterwards. You can enjoy it without any guilt. You can enjoy it without any negative emotion post eating it because you knew when to stop and you knew when enough was enough. And this takes a long time to learn if you haven't actually faced the root cause of that, which is usually an emotional catalyst that leads to this. It's using food to cope with other things. If you don't address that root cause first, if this is a recurring issue that you have, and no matter what quote unquote nutrition strategy you use in the home to help with that, whether it's hiding the food or pre-portioning them or some other thing, none of those are working for you, then again, you need to address that root cause. But knowing when enough is enough, being mindful while you eat, and enjoying the food itself without needing to enjoy more is one of the biggest keys in staying lean for as long as possible after a diet phase. And, again, all of these can be used during a diet phase to help you enjoy the diet without being miserable while dieting. Going through it again, one, recommend getting a coach if you didn't already, because the hardest thing to do is staying lean after a diet. And if you've lost weight several times before, then this is the most important reason to get a coach, is so that you don't have to lose weight several times again in the future. Maximizing satiety per meal, so choosing meals that are going to keep you full longer as opposed to meals that are going to temporarily fill you up. Building meals around protein, again, to help you stay full and to help give you enough diversity in amino acids to help you maintain your muscle tissue. Limiting multi-macro foods, opting for simpler food options, so foods that are mostly protein, like a steak, like a chicken. Foods that are mostly carbs, like a rice, as opposed to foods that are a mix of things. Going for solid foods for calories as opposed to liquid calories. And then understanding how much you need to enjoy yourself and how much is overkill. I recorded a whole episode on fat loss mantras, and one of them was, enough is as good as a feast. When you have enough of something, it's just as good, if not better, like I said earlier, as having too much of it, because you can still enjoy it and not feel bad afterwards.